Hello there. Welcome to this episode of Force Ghost Conversations. This is your host, Anthony King, and this week I'm joined by Ken Napzok from the ForceCenter podcast feed for part 5 of our 20th anniversary celebration of Star Wars Episode 3 Revenge of the Sith. If you're a fan of the podcast and would like to consider pledging your support, there will be a link in the episode description for you to check out the various tiers offered. Also, please be sure to check out our TeePublic store to buy some Force Ghost Conversations merchandise. And without further ado, it's time to gather around the campfire for some Force Ghost Conversations. Welcome back to Force Ghost Conversations, everyone. It is wonderful again to be a part of these 20th anniversary celebration discussions about Revenge of the Sith. And I hope that you've been enjoying them all too, because, we do this partially for you, the fans. And, I think if I'm enjoying this, then there's a high chance that you're all enjoying it too. So thanks for coming along this epic ride here and chatting. Or at least listening to these great conversations here. We've had many wonderful guests here. And of course, we have returning guests to this show. Ken Napzok, you probably know him very well from the ForceCenter podcast feed and many of the podcasts that they do on that network, as well as his own personal channel, the Napzok Files, where he has the blathering, and of course his comedy as well. A wonderful stand-up comedian. I've seen him twice and on live shows now, and he's just a true great member of this community, and we have a lot of deep conversation thoughts about this film and its place in the Star Wars story and just the overall story of us as people 20 years later and reflecting upon that. So it's really great to have him back on the show, and I hope you enjoyed this conversation we have here today. In terms of news, because of course this is the part of the show that we do our Cloud City Gossip segment, recapping all the news that's taken place in the Lucasfilm and Star Wars Adjacent Galaxy over the past week or so. And honestly, we're still in that lull of news. That not a whole lot that's come out recently. I will say that if you're a book reader, the final book of the High Republic, Trials of the Jedi, is now out. So I hope that you have had a chance to either pick it up or get into that. I have not yet gotten into some of the later Phase 3 stories for the High Republic, because I've been diverting a lot of my personal reading time to reading about like German history and folklore and stuff like that in preparation for my upcoming trip. So that is personally something that I'm doing. But when I get back, and July will be very much a High Republic catch-up month for me to close out those wonderful stories, which I really loved and enjoyed. And I hope that you all get a chance to either check those out at your own leisure, or that you have been following up with them along the way here. But that is all that I have for the news that has taken place this week. We'll be back on the other side of this very short break with our conversation with Ken Napzok, all about Revenge of the Sith in honor of its 20th anniversary celebration. Stay tuned, folks. All right, folks, welcome back to another installment of Force Ghost Conversations, and I am so thrilled to continue our conversations about Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, in honor of its 20th anniversary. It's still crazy to even say that phrase. Where's the time gone? I don't know. But to continue our conversations about this incredible film, I, of course, have brought Ken Napzok back to Force Ghost Conversations. You know him from Force Center and the Napzok Files podcast feed. Ken, welcome back to the podcast, and how are you doing?
I'm great, and thanks for having me back on the show. A lot of fun the first time around, so we're doing it again. Let's dance.
We're doing it again. That's right. We just have you on for all the anniversaries. 5th anniversary of Rise of Skywalker, and heaven forbid, somehow we got 20 years past Revenge of the Sith.
Don't even. But yet, let's do it.
Let's do it indeed. Well, that's where I want to start. I want to go back to 2005. And the months leading up to the release of this film, what was your anticipation level like for this?
It was very high. Very high. I am known as a prequelist now, and on Force Center, Joseph and Jennifer and I dive in deep to the prequels, and we love them and have this wonderful appreciation for them, and more than just appreciation. I really enjoy these films and really count them as a regular viewing experience for me as a Star Wars fan. In 2005, I was still in the haze of these didn't work for me in a lot of levels, which is true, and some of that stuff still remains for me that I didn't connect with. But I also want to here we are, 2005. Been on this journey since 1999, even before in
Yeah,
terms
of
of the
course.
prequels as a Star Wars fan from the 70s, 80s, and beyond. But I was still very excited. My anticipation was very high. The trailer, absolutely. The trailers, but the main trailer
I
got
was to
me
say, yeah.
absolutely hyped. We're going to what we know as Mustafar, but I was like, the lava planet from the Return of the Jedi novel that they mentioned, like we're gonna see that. I'm in. Even if some stuff in the previous two hadn't worked for me, I'm going opening night, which I did.
It sounds like this was, of all the prequels, this is the one that you seemingly were most looking forward to some degree because it
Mm.
was to fulfill all those answers that were to be then at least teased or promised and to some
Hmm.
degree from the original trilogy. Is that somewhat correct?
Yeah, I had high anticipation for Attack of the Clones as well, but was still stuck in a more of a cynical realm. Not even cynical, just you hack on something you love, and it was
Yeah.
fun to make fun of these films and all that kind of stuff. And there's still some great things to poke fun at. I think in all three of them. But yeah, no, I was Sith. It's for so many people, it is their favorite of the prequels
Hmm.
from different generations and different eras and different
Sure.
perspectives. And
Sure.
I think I get it, and this remains a favorite for me. But it's so funny sometimes to analyze that 20 years on about. But did that really just mean there was just more darkness? Did we like darkness? Is that what we
Yeah.
wanted?
Yeah.
Let's see.
Did we want to see the kids beat? You know,
Hmm.
yeah.
Hmm.
Did we want to see Anakin take on those kids in that council room? I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
um,
And I think there's some too from my generation, from my early 20s with Phantom Menace to this one started to feel more adult, which is something I push
mhm.
back against now. I mean, the movie is and was PG-13, but
Sure. Sure.
from listening to Force Center, like I don't want hard R Star Wars. I love
I agree.
Andor. I love another thing in Andor style, but I need Star Wars to be about generational exchange, and I need it to be mostly aimed for those coming up, not those who are there.
Yeah.
There's stuff in it for everyone. I think there is, but it's hard to ignore that at the time, this felt like finally we're getting some adult Star Wars.
Mm.
Something I would scream at people for now at a bar if they said that. But back then it made sense. And that was where I was at with a lot of
And
folks.
it's totally interesting because as George will always say, Star Wars is for 12-year-olds, right?
Hmm.
And at that time, this might be the one that's probably least for 12-year-olds, even
Literally,
though
PG 13.
literally PG-13. Yeah, so,
Hmm.
parents' permission if you for parental guidance if you want to bring them
Hmm.
to the theater here. So
Yeah.
I was 10 at the time, so a little under the target audience for this, and somehow
Mm.
opening night made it in. I got my mother's permission; she took me,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that so we'll talk about that experience in just a bit here. But for me, the anticipation was through the roof. This was a time that I was, in many ways, this is my favorite Star Wars film for a lot of reasons, and um, so this was the one I was most looking forward to. I will say of all of them, I loved Attack of the Clones.
Hmm.
Absolutely, I saw it 300 times the summer of 2003, and that's not an exaggeration. That is maybe
Hmm.
undercutting how many times I've seen that movie. But then after that, the special edition DVD release of 2004 really skyrocketed my interest and enjoyment of Star Wars overall.
Hmm.
Where I was able to understand that there was a narrative through line between the original trilogy and the prequel
Mm.
trilogy.
Yeah.
As growing up before then, I'd loved those other movies, but I thought exactly that they were other movies. That was old Star
Mm.
Wars, and this is a new reboot where they're playing in the sandbox with different
Oh,
characters and just having fun with
interesting.
it. Until my uncle one day had to sit me down and say, he held my hand as he told me this. He's like, "I'm going to tell you this that scary guy in the big, mechanized guy that terrifies you in those other movies. Well, he's
Yeah.
that guy that you really like in Attack of the Clones. He becomes that." And I was like, you're crazy. That's impossible. That's not true. No, I had
No.
my own Luke moment in Empire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
so
I mean, not
once
wonderful you had experienced that, but
Yeah,
I just
right.
love hearing that stuff.
Having to piece that together was a revolutionary moment for me. And
Mhm.
then once I was able to understand that was the through line of this all, and then we were missing this middle piece here, that was like, okay, wow, I need to see how this happens then. How did that guy become this? Tell me this story here, George. And I think too, it helped that I was a kid on Cartoon Network all the time and watched the Tartakovsky Clone Wars series as it aired. That was a big thing
Right.
for me too to connect those dots. And I
Right.
think the 2004 DVD release also in the bonus features had a little bit of behind the scenes about Revenge of the Sith
It
too.
did.
And that also like sparked the interest of like, oh hey, look at this, and then seeing
Mm,
Hayden at the end too helped to really connect those dots. And I'm like, okay,
mm.
this actually is a thing. I need to pay more attention to how this is a big through line here. So that was
Oh,
really
wow.
interesting for me. And then of course seeing those trailers, I think often about that wonderful teaser where Palpatine is like Lord Vader, and he's like, yes, Master, rise, and then shows those images. Man, I could watch that right now and
Oh,
just spend
yeah.
my entire night doing that.
With everyone looking up, even Chewie and Tarful,
Yes.
whatever, everyone's
Yes.
looking up. Yes, yes, yes.
Oh my
And he
gosh, I never
doesn't
even
he
put together that they're looking up.
doesn't he rise with his hands in a different spot than the final cut, or at
I don't
least the
even remember if they
theatrical?
show his hands in that. It
He's like,
just
because
might be the body.
he's coming up on the yeah the table. Oh, that's amazing, fun
I was
stuff.
looking
Yeah, I
forward
love
to
that.
hearing that in the film, and then it never
Right,
actually plays out that same
not
way
really.
too. And I was like,
Yep.
oh no, it's not like the trailer. How?
Yeah, your first big lesson as a young emerging adult that the trailers sometimes lie. Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes. Trailers are not 100% truthful, kids. Yeah, hate
Mm-hmm.
to spoil you all.
Mm-hmm. Just the way
But
of it.
the internet was kind of still in its infancy in some degree by the time
Mm-hmm.
2005 rolls along. So
Yeah.
people hearing about the title, especially at this time and time frame, was a lot different than what it is nowadays, where you go on the internet or you see a tweet or whatever, a blue
Mm-hmm.
sky, and then you see, all right, the next Star Wars called this.
Mm-hmm.
So how did you first hear about the title Revenge of the Sith, and what did you think of that title then, and perhaps have your feelings about that title changed in the interim?
That is a great question of where I heard it first. Man, probably some early movie news website. I mean, Friendster, MySpace. No, it's probably the newspaper, and it got around, and maybe the trailer. I mean, I that's a great question. I don't have the memory of that. But
And that's
do remember
fair.
upon finding out, like it was a great title. I've always did love the Phantom Menace. I thought that was a great title. Attack
That's
the
a great one
Clones at the
too.
time. Attack of the Clones at the time, it was like, what is this going to be, a 1950s B movie? And it was like, well, yeah, that it
And you got
is.
it.
That's the point. But I was
And they do
more of
attack
like,
in the movie.
and they do attack, and it was you get a 50s diner, all the great stuff about Attack of the Clones that I love now, and it's Joseph Scrimshaw's favorite of the prequels, really. But it was just funny to be in 2001 going, "Phew, I completely missed the point of Star Wars, and I'm going to be loud about it. And that was kind of where I was on the title. But Revenge of the Sith shows up, and it's one of those things. Again, the internet's going strong by this point, but in a way different form than it is now.
Right.
Um, and so we all thought we were really cool, being like, well, George wanted it to be Revenge of the Jedi, but it turned to Return. So this is it's full circle moment here. It was one of those kind of situations. Proud to know the reference, and I still love the title. It works for me.
Yeah, I think it's an awesome title too. It tells you exactly what's going to happen in this movie. It's
Yeah.
not misleading in any way, shape, or form. It's
Yeah.
like, yeah, the Sith are going to win. You thought the Empire Strikes Back was telling you that the Empire is going to strike back. I mean, goodness gracious, the Jedi exist in this movie, and then by the end, they don't really.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
Sith are going to have their heyday.
Yeah.
So I do remember how I found out the title
Okay.
for this movie, and I'm going to share some lore about how I came across that title here. Speaking about the infancy of the internet and this, so listeners, you've heard this story a few times before, so I'm going to share it to Ken here. In 2004, after a watch of the DVD special edition re-release, at this time, I was 9 and had to ask for my parents' permission to go online before going on the internet,
Oh,
on the
good.
interwebs. I
Good.
was at my uncle's place at the time, and I didn't
Mm.
have to ask. So as he put on Star Trek, I think The Next Generation or something like that, I didn't really watch it. So I used that as my internet time. So I went
Mm.
over to the computer beside where he sat, and then was like, "Oh, I wonder if they have any news about this upcoming Star Wars film. It's been a while. It's been a few
Mm.
years. Maybe there's something about this that's, well, let's see what happens." So I typed in Star Wars Episode 3 script.
Oh, right.
And then maybe about 10 pages or so into that Google search, I came across a fully leaked script of the film online,
Oh, wow.
readily available, and I
Yeah.
dissected and read that entire thing. And, famously, George rewrote some of that on set and
Mm.
changed things around. But I got to tell you, Ken, for the most part, I'm
Mm.
going to say about 90% of the things happened in that draft of the script as they do in the final cut of the movie.
Wow.
So I knew
Wow.
everything that was going to happen from, like, Mace Windu getting his hand cut off to Padme using dresses to cover up being pregnant. Like it was all
Wow.
in there. So right there at the top of it though was Star Wars Revenge of the Sith as the title, and I was like, oh, that must be the title of this thing. So it was a little revelatory moment right there. As then I dived into the rest of it. Now, of course, I
Yeah.
was like, I don't know if this is 100% accurate or whatnot until
Right.
you go there opening night of May, and then I'm like, okay, these things are starting to happen as I
Mm-hmm.
saw or predicted or
Mm.
was foretold to me perhaps,
Yeah.
and that is how that came to be. But can you imagine a full script? Who's getting fired these days,
I,
right? If there's a behind the scenes set photo that leaks,
mhm.
someone's getting tossed out.
Well, it was yeah, as perhaps they should, yeah, and and the view on spoilers was a lot different too. Like I think I might have read it if it was in front of me. I would have. Oh, let me take a look.
As
And
everyone would, right?
yeah, and I remember, and I've told the story on ForceCenter before, but with the Phantom Menace novel out there by Terry Brooks, it come out before the movie. Of course, Qui-Gon's Noble and all that stuff on the soundtrack. But I
Sure.
remember my shift supervisor at work was on his lunch break, and he finished the novel Phantom Menace, and he was like, and I go, how was it? And he's like, oh, I think you're gonna really like this, and he like kind of told me some stuff, and I was like, oh, this is great. And it's spoiler culture is so much different now, and I don't like to be spoiled at all. But fantastic, and yeah, God, just the internet back then and that was kind of like how Harry Knowles rose to power, unfortunately, with scripts and script
Yeah.
leaks and stuff like that, just being out there. Weird Al putting together The Saga Begins by basically guessing the plot from leaks and pretty much being accurate. Crazy.
It is crazy. I mean, just thinking like, people get upset now about like a Funko or a Lego release,
Yes.
spoiling something in a movie that's coming out. And like, it's unheard of to even think of that this would happen back in the
Yeah.
day. But it did,
Yeah.
kids. It did.
Mm-hmm.
Truly
Mm-hmm.
wild, wild times.
It did.
So for your first viewing experience, what was that like? Where did you see it? Did you see the film with anyone? And what
Yeah.
were your initial reactions?
Yeah, was we went to ArcLight Hollywood.
Love it.
Not not the Cinerama Dome. I think I've mistakenly said in the past that my first viewing was there. It was not. I did have a viewing like a week later in the Cinerama Dome, which two 10-year-olds and 9-year-olds were behind me screaming and bawling at the Palpatine scene with Mace, the death of
Well,
Mace and Palpatine. So that could have been you. I've
I
always
very
wondered
well could have.
what happened to those kids. They grew up and became great
Right
Star
here.
Wars podcasters. All right, got it. Yeah, no, did go some friends to my best friend and his wife, who's I just had lunch with him today, 20 years later. We're
Nice.
still friends, and he's a dedicated Star Wars fan, a little more casual in terms of the lore and everything like that, but big Star Wars fan, and a friend of mine and a girl I was trying to impress her date. It was a thing, one of those
Yeah.
things. So we had a lot of fun, and she was not a Star Wars fan, and also at the time we had. I have changed politically, but back then I
Mm,
was a little bit on a different team, and she was on the other team. And so
all right.
when Anakin quoted George W. Bush, she laughed really loud in the theater, like a big
Yeah.
giant. George Lucas is a liberal, because I guess she didn't know that. And I was like, no, he's not, no, he's not. I've since changed teams, I shall say. And yes, he is. So yeah, it was all part of the fun, and I had a great time. I yeah, walked out of that really satisfied.
That sounds great. Did you feel a sense of closure? Like, okay, this is the end of the saga as we know it. There are no more Star Wars films after this where you're like, I'm satisfied with everything I got here.
This was the end. Yes, yes. It was the end of Star Wars. It was the end of Star Wars,
Yeah.
and I felt content with that, and which I'm glad it's back, without a doubt. And I'm glad Clone Wars came back. I'm glad they continued, and there was
Sure.
books and comics and all that stuff. But yeah, especially for the older generation, meaning my age group, just kind of being very aware, more than maybe you at 10, of just like what was going on. Like, but though you were pulling scripts on the internet, I wasn't doing that. Yeah, 100%. It was like, that's it. That's the final shot in Star Wars, and now you can go straight into New Hope. And we wanted more, and and that was a little bit, not to turn this into Clone Wars conversation, but when Clone Wars showed up and the movie, which I do enjoy now, but it's a little janky, and the technology isn't there, and
Yeah.
you have some things you're like, I'm not sure about General Loathsome and Rada the Hutt. What's going on? It was a hard pill to swallow, because it was just like, well, this wait, we get a cartoon now? How about more movies, George? How about 7, 8, 9? You're doing a cartoon, and again, Clone
And
Wars is one of
episodic
my
cartoons?
yeah. Clone Wars is
Cartoon
one of my
Network?
favorite things. Yeah, Clone Wars, I think, is one of the most important things in Star Wars and in terms of the stories. So weird time. But yes, to get back to your direct question, yeah, absolutely. Felt satisfied. This was the end, and we have 6 wonderful movies.
6 wonderful movies indeed. And that sounds like a fun experience, just like from the, Leo meme pointing at the screen. Hey,
Mm-hmm.
hey, George, George Lucas is a
Hey,
liberal.
hey.
That's George Bush. And
Yeah.
that's something that's super interesting in this time of like
Mm-hmm.
the post Revenge of the Sith, especially for me, like being 10. Like obviously I was
Mm-hmm.
not aware really of like the inner politics of the world too much at that point in
Yeah.
time. So it's like realizing that George was theoretically writing this movie like in 2002, 2003, post 9/11,
Yeah.
and seeing all that going on at the same time. I was just
Mm-hmm.
watching this documentary on Netflix called Turning Point, and about that era, and it's really well done and
Ooh, it's
excellent
so
and
good.
just speaks about that. And I'm just like, oh, this is the Patriot Act and all these other things is exactly
Mm-hmm.
what was influencing George as he was writing this.
Mm-hmm.
And giving him the fuel to like, this guy
Mm-hmm.
had something to say in this movie about giving power away and how fascists are given
Yep.
power democratically rather than just them uplifting and uprooting the entire system. It's
Mm-hmm.
a process that happens over time, and he's seeing it unfold right in front of him. And not to get too political, but as we're seeing similar
Mm-hmm.
instances
Mm-hmm.
happen these days too, it's like, oh well, George has given us a blueprint here for not only the space fantasy opera of it all, but also like how good people turn themselves into bad people for good reasons, but
Mm-hmm.
also make the wrong choice at the end of all things here. Like this
Yeah.
is this is wild.
Yep. No, I mean, looking back, the whole prequels right now are having a moment, I'll say, where I see a lot of online like, we owe George some apologies. Yeah, maybe you do. Maybe you do. And I was one of those who apologized for it a long time ago. Of just going, oh, what is at stake here, and what is going on, is very clear. And George wasn't
Hmm.
subtle about it, and I think he was kind of more. I think he was subtle in the original trilogy for different reasons.
I
It's
think so
it's
too. Yeah.
not if you're looking, I guess, but it's, the Ewok is the Viet Cong thing didn't really emerge till later, even if there was interviews that he said it just wasn't part of our conversations, as Star Wars fans. So I get that for 4, 5, and 6, but 1, 2, and 3, Newt Gunray named after Newt Gingrich and Ronald Reagan
Yep.
and Lot Dodd, Trent Lott or whatever. Like, yeah, George came to play. George came to
Yep.
play,
Yep.
and I've talked about this a lot, but you need to go if you're an Indiana Jones fan and haven't spent time with the young Indiana Jones Chronicles. They're hard to
Hmm.
watch. They were on Disney Plus. They're on. If you can get a hold of them,
Love
there are ways.
them.
George and Rick McCallum and so many people who did get involved in
Hmm.
the prequels didn't just come together as a team and then say, go make some Star Wars. George and his staff of international writers that would meet and put all this stuff together would go so hard on the political stuff, on the social
Yes.
issues,
Yes.
on the real
Yes.
things of the world, on God, religion, more. It's insane to go back and watch that now and go, then George said, let's do this in Star Wars.
Hmm.
And he did it. And I
Hmm.
think it all came home in Revenge of the Sith.
I see the through lines of young Indy learning about slavery and going, "This is wrong," as a kid
Yep.
in 1890s, to then
Mm-hmm.
seeing young Anakin Skywalker as a slave himself and being like, "This
Mm-hmm.
isn't right. I
Yep.
shouldn't be in bondage in this slavery." And then,
Yeah.
kind of in a way, going to the Jedi Order and living in a different form of a box, so to
Yep.
speak, like moving from
Mm-hmm.
one to another. What is freedom? What isn't freedom? What is my choice to do so? Uh,
Yeah.
Wild and valid questions that are brought up here, and yes, I sing the high praises of the young Indiana Jones Adventures, the young Indiana Jones Chronicles, however you want to
Yeah.
call it,
Yeah. It's different.
and how they are just a true joy and a
They're great.
plethora of wonderful stories and fun action beats. Like if you want to hear Tolstoy talk about Christy Mathewson, it's there.
It's one of my favorite episodes, and to go after. Anyways, we could talk for it's one of my favorite things. I studied it closely 2 years ago for a project I was working on that never made air, and I still might find a way to make it. I don't know if I own the script or not. It was for a company, but it's pretty stunning because I think this is a Revenge of the Sith 20th anniversary conversation. But to see that George was setting it up in
Yep.
so many ways of can I do this in Star Wars? Political, technology, the casting, Oliver Ford Davies and all these.
Mhm,
Shmi
mhm.
Skywalker,
Yep.
Patil
The
August is in
actresses.
it.
Yep.
Rick McCallum, I got my producer, and let's
McDermott
go do
coming back.
yep. Ian McDermott's there, yeah, absolutely. And to go and Carrie Fisher like script
Yeah,
co-wrote an episode and script doctor some stuff.
whole
Yeah,
Paris
and then
episode. Yeah, that's a great one
the
too.
Paris episode, great one. So for him to take that into Star Wars and bringing home Revenge of the Sith, it's just fascinating track. Sorry, I'm repeating myself, I'm sure, because I just I don't get to talk about Young Indiana Jones Chronicles enough.
No, the world doesn't talk about the Young Indiana
Yeah.
Jones Chronicles enough, and we'll certainly have
Mm.
you back on when those eventually come back on Disney Plus or some, available streaming platform. Please, the streaming gods
Yeah.
out there, please hear my call.
Please.
I'm
Please.
praying for this. So
Mhm.
once that happens, we will do an in-depth Indiana Jones Chronicles, Adventures,
Mhm.
whatever you want to call it these days, discussion
Yeah.
on that one. But I 100% yes and everything about the through line there of
Mhm.
these, and both theory, production, everything. Rick McCallum was also just on like the Young Indie Chronicles podcast too, and did a full
Yeah.
3-episode thing on that, and that was really insightful too,
Mhm.
folks. So if you're interested in all that, go check that out. Because also Rick doesn't come out of his hole too often
He
to
doesn't.
talk about things. I'm like, man,
Doesn't.
there's Rick McCallum, and
Yeah.
he's also uncensored in the podcast, so he's
Yeah.
swearing up a storm and all that. I'm like, man,
Love it.
it's good to have Rick back. I miss this.
Yes. Absolutely agree with that.
So I very well could have been those 9 and 10-year-olds behind you at your screening.
Yeah.
I was at Movie E-Town, Elizabethtown, Pennsylvania, on opening night to see this
Mm.
thing. I had to beg and plead my mother to take me on opening night. I was like, Mom, I cannot be the only kid on at the school lunch table on Monday that hasn't seen this movie yet. I cannot be that person. I have few friends to begin with. Don't take this away from me. I have to be the one in the conversation. I have to know if the script that I saw was correct, or was I just being hoodwinked
Right.
this entire time. My uncle was getting married the next day in Pittsburgh, and that was a 4-hour drive away. So she was like, we can see it next weekend. I was like, no, Mom, you don't understand. This is a pivotal, impactful moment in my life. I have to be there, or else I will be square, and I cannot be square. So after much, back and forth, she finally said, fine, we'll do it. And then we went in line and saw that 7:00 p.m. showing that evening. And once I started seeing things that were, okay, there's the space battle. Okay, there's Grievous. There's the hands getting chopped off. Oh, so Order 66 is happening. Oh, yeah, we're going. We're in it.
There.
I was like, okay, this script was pretty accurate. I knew everything that was happening, but even with that, it didn't detract from my enjoyment or love or adoration of this movie whatsoever. Which is wild to think, because like a lot of people will be like, "Oh no, this got spoiled to me via this cameo got spoiled via a Funko Pop or a set pick or something like that," or we heard this rumor that this agent was walking around and he said blabbled something over lunch one day, and then someone tweeted about it, and that's it ruined my enjoyment of the movie overall. I'm like, I know an entire script going into this thing, and it didn't. From a certain point of view, folks, it doesn't have to ruin your experience. Like, there's a lot of things that won't be there or out of context or things like that, and once you see the final picture, there you go.
I agree.
So I'm a product of how that can be, and it just was a fantastic experience. I loved just the wonderfulness of the opening crawl. Everyone hooted and hollered as soon as that Star Wars logo flashed on screen, and then the crawl starts going, war. And I'm like, what is this? What does this mean? War. Heroes on both sides. Crazy. And then goes into that wonderful space battle with the drums opening that beat and just going right into it, and seeing these huge spaceships going at it, and like, what is even happening on screen here? Because that's the thing a script can't really tell you, is action. So seeing all of that, and then seeing like, okay, because it would just basically be like a big space battle happens in outside of Coruscant, and I'm like, okay, that'll be cool to see. Or Anakin and Obi-Wan fight on this lava planet, and like, okay, I will see the choreography one day. And then it played out, and when you see these things play out for the first time, the magic was just coming on, and it was just incredible. And that was my first experience. And we dabbled into this a little bit here, but as 20 years have now passed and we are celebrating that for here in this conversation here, how does the film hold up for you? You still going back to it a lot? You put it on the background? Is this the one that you dive and dissect for themes? How does it hold up for you?
Yeah, all the above. It's only grown, and I love the Phantom Menace more than ever now, and that's one of my favorite put Star Wars on movies. And for a while, though, Sith was that. And in that weird period of time post 2005, when they started to come out in the home home box office kind of way, not HBO, but the physical media, whatever. What are those called? Physical media? Is that a thing anymore? I don't know.
Blu-rays? What?
Yeah, when it started to hit it and I could watch it at home, that was a weird era, especially for me being a little older than you, where I'd love to know for your generation too, but it was just like, well, we hate the prequels. We all
Mhm,
determined as a
mhm, mhm.
generation, we got together and said, nope, it's not good. And if you like it, we don't care if you're 7, you're an idiot, and these movies are bad. And I was kind of in
Um,
that circle. I'm a stand-up comic. I'm hanging around with people who are nerds and fans of this kind of stuff. This is what we talked about. And yeah, but I mean, those things were pretty bad. But then someone would always be like, yeah, but Darth Maul's pretty cool. Duel of Fates song is great.
mhm,
Oh, I
mhm.
love that kind of scene in Revenge of the Sith. You know what? I love the Mustafar fight. Like that stuff was there. And
Yeah.
we just kind of held on to the fact that we all thought it sucked. George Lucas bleeped our childhood, and we're gonna feel cool saying that. It was bullshit. And again, if you're listening, you don't have to love the prequels, but I imagine if you're clicking on this podcast, you probably do.
Chances are.
Uh, Chances are. Um, but Revenge of the Sith was the film, and I like things in the other ones too, but was the film that when I had it on DVD, I would kind of be in my room by myself and go, well, all right, no one's watching. I'm going to put on Revenge of the Sith. I don't want anyone to know that I like these
Mhm, mhm.
prequel films, but I definitely like this one. And then because it was quote unquote more adult, and it is, it was easier to be like, actually, I kind of like that one. I kind of like that one. There's a lot of people in my age bracket who loved it then, loved it the moment they saw it in the theater. They're proud about it.
Mhm, mhm.
Sometimes their interaction and relationship with Revenge of the Sith should probably be analyzed, as sometimes I think they take the wrong lessons. But
Sure.
George has been open about that too. Y'all missed the point of Anakin. I had to make it
I
more
think so.
in
I
your
had to show
face.
you I had to show him being burned. I had to zoom in on that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Great interviews in around 2005 of him kind of saying, "Yeah, I learned you all missed the point." And I think there's still some Revenge of the Sith fans who missed the
You're
point
100% right.
overall. Vader's so cool. Yeah, yeah, but anyways, Sith. My relationship with Sith was strong and grew from that point of the movie that I watched secretly, and then when I got to the
Mhm.
end and that final shot and the twin suns, I'd be like, "Oh man, I gotta go put New Hope on. I absolutely got to do it."
Yeah.
And that is a testament to Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah, 100%. That is awesome, and I'm glad that you were like, "Yeah, I'm putting this on. This is a good one." And
Mhm.
slowly but surely, you started coming out of the shell a bit more and being like, "Hey, this is a good movie. I like some of these
Yeah.
things here. This is cool."
Yeah.
It's a great through line straight into A New Hope because of how it ends there too. But now that 20 years have passed, we've got a few things in the timeline in between there now too.
Yeah.
So with Kenobi out, you immediately are like, I want to put on Kenobi because I need to see the next chapter here in this real through line.
Yeah.
I feel like, Kenobi's the sequel in
Mhm.
a way to Revenge of the Sith more so than
Mhm.
Solo or Rogue One is in some ways.
I agree.
Are you immediately putting one of those on before going into A New Hope now?
Not all the time, but also like there's so many wonderful choices because I'm a huge fan of Kenobi. I
Hmm.
want people to know, and I think you're right. I think it is many ways the spiritual continuation of those stories.
Yeah.
But we got Bad Batch too, and
Oh, sure.
Bad
Yeah.
Batch
How could I forget?
taken. Well, no, there's a lot of, but Bad Batch taking place, mere moments after, well, during
During,
Order
technically.
66
Yeah.
and mere moments after, and following the change of the galaxy during that. Even I'm close to finishing Reign of Empire, the Mask of Fear,
Hmm.
the first
Hmm.
in the Alexander Freed trilogy, that takes place weeks after the fall of the Republic and the rise of the Empire. And there's so many things now that if I finish Revenge of the Sith, I'm in the mood. I'm not going to just, I guess, pick up a book and start reading or a comic, but
Right. Right.
there's even comics. There's comics of Masamita collecting the lightsabers in front of the Jedi Temple and destroying them. The Vader comic and everything,
Love it.
and it's all there, but it's all just it's that buffet about what you mood for. Do I want to see Kenobi work through his bleep? Do I want to see
Mm,
New
mm.
Hope come after? Do I go to Rogue One for? Do I watch Andor now? A lot of choices, but Revenge of the Sith does lead to all of them.
That's a great analogy. I love the buffet.
Mm-hmm.
What am I picking today? Right after
Yeah,
watching Revenge of the Sith, what palate cleanser do I need in some way after watching most of the Jedi Order be decimated and kids and
yeah,
all of the great heroes that we love now being in their lowest place
yep.
after all this, and how do we emerge out of that? Yeah, that's a wonderful way to put it. For me, I know, just to answer your question a little bit there about like how I was as a 10-year-old after this movie
Mm-hmm.
came out, and I was bullied frankly a lot
Mm-hmm.
for liking the
Mm-hmm.
prequels back in the day, I'll admit.
Mm.
um I'd wear a Star Wars shirt and people will come up to me, they're 20, 30, 40 years older than me and go, Do you like those new films? How dare you? Like, you're not a Star Wars fan. And I was like, no, I think I am. I'm pretty sure I am. I like all of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to almost like hide the fact that I liked the prequels in some way. Now, I
Mm-hmm.
didn't like hide it in the fact that I wouldn't say to people like I didn't like those movies or anything like that, but I would say things like, "Oh, I'm a sagaist. Like I like the Star Wars saga." Um,
Mm-hmm.
Instead of proudly saying like I'm a prequelist now, which
Mm-hmm.
ForceCenter has proudly monikered and been a
Mm-hmm.
bastion of that over the years.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would be like, oh yeah, I like the saga, and then people would take that as they will, or they'd probably be like, yeah, Empire rocks, right? And then I'd say, yeah, it
Mm-hmm.
sure does.
Mm-hmm.
But then secretly I'd be like, but Attack of the Clones is really a great expose on
Mm-hmm.
how power is given to people, and I love democracy, right? That means a lot. That's a deeper line than you actually are thinking about here.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then ultimately leading to this is how democracy dies. It's under applause. There's a through line here, folks.
Yeah.
All the way leading up from how a simple trade dispute can lead to the
Yeah.
downfall of a civilization. Like we might be
Mm-hmm.
seeing this happen right in front of us, guys. Um,
I don't know.
I
Yeah.
don't know. I don't
Yeah.
know. So the film has certainly held up for me over the years, and as I get older, and you watch it when you're a kid, it has a meaning
Mm-hmm.
for you then. You watch it when you're 15, it has a different meaning for you then. It has a different meaning
Right.
when you're 20, and as time goes on, right, you change with your own life experiences as thing goes along with it. And this film just continually showcases something new for me every time that I watch it. Where I now in this day and age, and with going on everything around us right now, I'm like, oh, that's George had something a lot more to say than I was really expecting to see back then. Where back then I was
Yeah.
like, oh, I just want to see how this saga concludes. I want to see these important details that need to be answered and addressed in this. And then, well, what do I think of those? But now that I get to
Mm-hmm.
sit with the story over the last 20 years, and I can think about the themes of it all, um,
Yeah.
what does it mean to be a person that is suffering in the choices that you make? Did Anakin, come from a good place in making these choices? Who are the Anakins in my life that I can help? Who are the
Mm-hmm.
people that failed Anakin along the way? Right? I don't think
Yeah.
Yoda necessarily he says good things to him. Like
Mm-hmm.
the words itself are great, but the therapy session itself is a really horrible session overall. Like the
Yeah.
delivery of it is really bad. Like if
Yeah.
Yoda made have
Yeah.
said something in a different way, perhaps using different words and different presentation of that, and then maybe would have hit Anakin a little harder. Or perhaps maybe if Mace
Yeah.
Windu wasn't like, I don't know, I don't really trust
Yep.
you, but if you tell me what is true here, then you'll have gained my trust and all
Mm-hmm.
that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Anakin's like, I just need someone to like listen to me and be a father to me and not push me
Mm-hmm.
down. And I thought this family around me was supposed to support me and all that stuff, but that's not
Yeah.
happening. So there's just a
Yeah.
lot, so much more to this film as it unlayers, and frankly, that's the whole prequels of it all,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's just
Mm-hmm.
there's something else here. There's every scene you could dissect into a further um, elaboration of what it can expound upon for the life that we live currently and for our daily society. And I think that's the beauty of these films overall. So totally holds up in my opinion too. I think a lot of the CG does really good job of holding up over time too. I
Yeah.
know that's the
Yeah.
criticism that people have, but I think at the time it really looked great too.
Yeah.
So also good on all that front, folks.
Yeah, no,
Um,
I mean, it's going to make sense. It being the oldest of the bunch, in term or newest, I guess, in terms of time,
yes,
but
the youngest.
the youngest. But yeah, yeah, it should look better than Phantom Menace and Attack of
Mhm.
Clones, and it does, and it does.
It does. It does. It's got those HD cameras, folks. Those
That's right.
new
That's right.
technologies. Um,
Yeah.
Revenge of the Sith was like that film, like I said, that filled in, and it was responsible for filling in a lot of the gaps to get us from
Mm,
episode 3 and episode 2 even to episode 4 then. So we're talking like Order 66, The Birth of the Twins, Anakin versus Obi-Wan, just to name a few. There's many more in there. Which
mm.
reveal at the time were you most looking forward to seeing and why? And did the answer that you receive in the film live up to your expectation?
Yeah, interesting. Fantastic. Definitely. What again we now know is Mustafar. I wanted to see, and the fall of Vader.
Yeah.
Put a pin in that thought. But from that first trailer shot, which I think was the teaser we're talking about, there's just
Hmm.
one little shot of what I think are the droids. Some of the droids, the worker
Yes.
droids
Yes.
on Mustafar, creepy
Yes.
crawling along, and it's like lava. So in the return of the Jedi novelization, there is the Kenobi is downloading Luke a little bit more information than he does in the
Hmm.
movie.
Yep.
And they talk about we fought on a molten planet and Anakin fell in and your father died, that day. I saw, told the story a little bit differently, but hey, that's true. So that had been in our heads, meaning our generation had been in our heads for a long time, and that would be a playground bit of knowledge. Well, do you know
Mhm.
what happened?
Mhm.
This
Mhm.
is what happened. That's why Darth Vader got the face he got. That, and so that teaser trailer pops up, and that's there. And I was with my roommates at the time. I remember probably downloading the trailer, or maybe it was on TV. Oh, it will be ready in 2 hours. Come back,
Yeah,
come
the
back.
Adobe Shockwave is downloading it,
Yeah,
folks.
yeah, yeah. You want to go to Chili's right now? We'll
Order
come back.
order go check out the salad bar and we'll be back.
Yeah. I can't tell you my excitement. My excitement was, oh, they're doing it. Oh my God, we're finally gonna go to the lava planet. We're going, guys, 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 the lava planet. That's where Vader falls in. That's where he So my anticipation was really high. And it was about the fall of Vader, wanting to see that. And again, I was sometimes when I'm getting a little frustrated, folks who worship Vader, I think for the wrong reasons or take the wrong
Mhm.
lessons or
Mhm.
just stick to the surface of the character, which is fine. I'm with you. I'm with you. I have of all of my Star Wars collection figures, figure wise that I still hold on to. I have a ton of different Vaders. Anytime they released a Vader, even if I wasn't fully watching Star Wars as much as I did in the past or do now, I'd pick it up. Right? If I was at a store, I'd be like, "Ooh, a
Yeah.
new Vader." I love Darth Vader too, and it is cool. He is cool, and I like watching him be a badass in Rogue One. But that's not the scene. That's not the point of the scene in Rogue One. The point is he
Nope.
has all the
No.
power. He's the most evil, feared man in the galaxy next to Palpatine, and he marches down hallways and cannot get what he wants. I always tell people that. Go and count how many times Anakin slash Vader is walking into or pounding down a hallway after something and does not get what he wants. It's constant. It happens a lot.
It's regularly, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I wanted to see, but I wanted to see in 2005 the fall of Vader,
Mhm.
and at the time when it happens, and I like the sequence, and the over the top Palpatine, which I love, and
Mhm.
Mace
Mhm.
and everything. That was cool. That was a cool fight. But when he falls to his knees and kind of resigns himself to his fate and yes, master and everything, at the
Yeah.
time I was angry car guy before it existed
Angry
in the
car
YouTube
guy.
space. Yeah. I was like, I wanted him to be a badass and chop people in two, not just they sent him after the
Mhm.
kids, the most powerful man in the galaxy, chopping kids in two. What a dumb thing. And then and I was like, you got James Earl Jones. Hold on. You got James Earl Jones back.
Say
You got James
Padme?
Earl Jones. And his first line is, "Where's Padme?" Oh, that was me, and that was a lot of folks. And I give myself the grace to learn and grow. I missed the point, man.
Yeah.
I missed
Yeah.
the point of what it was. I missed the point of Anakin's fear, his possession, his understandable loss of his mother, and the fear of
Yes.
losing his wife was
Yes.
manipulated by a fascist leader looking to stoke fear in everyone to claim more power for himself, selling the lie of power. And when that mask comes down on Anakin's face as Padme is dying a while away, and no, there's no transfer of Palpatine's energy to it. The theory's fun, but it's not real.
Mhm. Mhm.
um, to watch him be trapped in the final shot of his eyes of his eyes go wide, and he's locked in
Yes.
this prison
Yes.
because he fell for the lie of power, that the power would save him. It's so good, and it's so real, and it's so connected to the moments we meet Anakin in the Phantom Menace. And it's so connected to we've lost him, but Padme still believes because what Shmi put into Anakin helped people. There's good in you. There's good in him, Obi-Wan. Padme
Mm.
says it and believes it. It's all connected, but he fell for it. And he is now, and soon will be after he learns to walk and stumble around and get a lightsaber from the
That's
comic
right.
run and everything. He will be the most feared man in the galaxy next to Palpatine because most people also don't know who Palpatine
That's
is.
right.
And he will
Sheev
never
is
get
still
what he wants.
Sheev.
Sheev is Sheev. Vader will never get what he wants until he finally sacrifices himself and his power. That's when he'll finally find redemption. It's so beautiful and so wonderful. And the fall of Vader and Revenge of the Sith is so good that the fact that in 2005 I was like, and then what? He falls to his knees in like 10 seconds? That's all it took for him to
That's all
fall?
it took. Yeah. That's
I
all it
some
takes.
It's all it takes, but I also rail on media literacy now, but I do
Mhm.
so because I was there and I just want people to experience things a little differently and a little deeper if you're into this
100%.
franchise. If you're
Yes.
just swinging through, great. But the fortunate thing is the people just swing through also have social media accounts and they love posting things about it
And they
too.
do. They love reposting too.
Yeah. So sorry for the rant, but that's what I was wanting to see. And it did not meet my expectations because I could not see how it should have exceeded my expectations, and I love
Yes,
what they got in that
yes.
film.
Oh, Ken, this has been a wonderful. I loved everything that you said here. This was
Mm,
fantastic. The journey of it all to ultimately get to the point of I should have
mhm,
seen that it exceeded my expectations back in the day.
mhm,
Wow, that is a full circle moment. And yes, I agree. The asking of the why behind scenes is we should dive further into the things that we want. If you want, like it's
mhm,
always there, and for a lot of other things too, not just Star Wars, but other
mhm.
properties out there too. There's people put their time and effort into things, and most oftentimes it's not just them just putting it out
Yeah.
there just for the sake of it.
Music, plays, art, comic books, the fact that every election cycle we have to go through the wait, Rage Against the Machine are they're not Republicans? Like we have to go through that every goddamn 4 years. And now every time a Springsteen song comes on, like, wait a minute, wait a minute. It's not about the glory days? Like,
You're like,
it's
tell me
not about
it's a
being
dark
born in the
story.
USA? Yeah.
It's
You're
about
telling me
Vietnam.
something else? Like,
It's an
what?
anti-war song. What? How is that possible? Um, I yes and all of that, and to the Palpatine of it all, right? I
Mhm,
mean, he's
mhm,
like I said, he's the only one that is giving that seductive fruit to Anakin of, oh,
mhm,
I'm here for you. Remember how long I've been here? You told me about your mother and the Sand People, right? Like this whole
mm,
time, and he's just pulling those strings and slowly dangling that fruit along the way, and then he's gives him that ultimate thing where it's like, oh, have you ever heard about Darth Plagueis? And he's the only one that ever was
mm,
able to figure out how to stop people he loved from dying. Um,
mm,
through me, I'm the only one that can stop your wife from certain death. He's very clear
mhm.
about the words he chooses and how he says it, and
Certain.
only through
Mm,
me, you are able to achieve this. And
mm,
I think this is a very important and poignant lesson that George throws in here is that, and for fascist leaders, they give simple answers to complex problems, and that's what they take advantage of. They take advantage of people that are dealing with downtrodden times and
mm,
living through complex problems, and then they offer them simple solutions that never pan out. And there's a reason those complex problems aren't solved. It's because they have complex and deserve complex solutions to fix those complex problems.
mm,
And then they dangle that fruit in front of you, and then they give you the power, and then as soon as they get that power, they start backtracking that. You see Palpatine, as soon as he's like, okay, through me is the only way you'll achieve this power. And then
mm,
I pledge myself to your teachings. And he's like, well, only one has been able to achieve it. But if we
mm,
work together, I'm sure we can we can figure this out. He's already walking back seconds after Vader pledges himself to him, and then later he says, "Oh, go to the temple and take out all the Jedi there, and
mm,
then you'll be strong. Or go to Mustafar and take out the Separatist leaders, and then you'll be strong
mm,
enough to in the dark
mm,
side of the Force
mm.
to achieve this new power that we're trying to achieve here." And
Yeah.
then Padme dies, and then it's okay. We have nothing left, so you're already my pawn here. You might as well,
Mhm,
you're trapped.
mhm,
You're trapped in
mhm,
this new existence here, and that is
mhm.
a
Oopsie.
metaphor for fascism. Ultimately,
Yep.
folks, whether we
Mm,
you want to believe it or not, it's right there
mhm,
for you, and history
mhm,
has proven it time and time and time again. And
mhm.
I hope that we're not seeing this happen currently.
I hope so too. I hope so too. But no, you're so right, and I love that end scene. And and Vader stumbles around, and I love that. I love that now in the sense of, oh yeah, I guess he wouldn't exactly know how to walk. It does look
Take a
like
second.
Frankenstein
He did lose
because
his
he is.
legs.
Yeah, he is Frankenstein's monster right here in this moment.
Yes,
And where's Padme is absolutely going to be the first thing he asks. And you
should his
promised.
yeah.
And then
You
the lie is,
promised.
well, you killed her. Everything we, cling to is from a certain point of view. And that smile on McDermott's face as Palpatine in
Yes,
the
he's
shadows,
won.
like,
It's his victory.
I got him. I
Phantom
got him.
Menace
And
has won.
yeah,
Everything he wanted.
and even and people point this out online, but then you have the kind of little ending there in front of the Death Star, and you have
Hmm.
Tarkin
Oh, I
and
love it with the hands. Oh,
the hands, and just that shot of comparing Vader and Palpatine next to each other and going back to the Phantom Menace, and Kenobi. Qui-Gon's gone. Kenobi's between them. Padme's between them, and Palpatine knows he has to remove them
gotta
to
get them
get
off the
to
board.
get to Vader. It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Beautiful. It's poetic. It's an arc. It's an arc right there,
Mhm.
folks. It's right there. Media literacy.
Mhm.
Beautiful. Watch these things as a full story,
Yep.
and it's there
Yep.
for you. Um, so I will say for me, the thing I was most looking forward to seeing was I think the Anakin Obi-Wan duel, just because that you
Mhm.
can't really, like I said, write out action in a script. So
Yeah,
just
yeah.
to see all the choreography and all that, because the prequels were so good at that,
Mm-hmm.
from the Phantom Menace on, just to see how these two Jedi at their prime,
Mm-hmm.
fighting for their existence and fighting for their full value and belief, because Anakin still believes he's doing this for the right cause at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, if I take out Obi-Wan, who's the bane of my existence right now, I will and then achieve the power to save Padme, even though I just choked her out.
Mm-hmm.
He's
Mm-hmm.
unwilling to see that in front of him right there and accept that.
Right.
Um, it's beautiful. It's well executed battle. The heroes going on at the same time is fantastic. Juxtaposed with Yoda and Palpatine fighting in the Senate chamber for the for the
Mm-hmm.
for the galaxy, the Republic overall. Like that is so
Mm-hmm.
poetic too, that it completely went over my head as a 10-year-old. I was like, oh, that's
Mm-hmm.
cool. They're just using he's throwing the chairs at them. That's fun. Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Only
Yep.
to realize
Yep.
like he's manipulating everything, and
Mm-hmm.
none of this has meaning anymore. He is the Senate. He is the Senate right
Yes,
here.
I am the
Um,
Senate. Yes.
I loved the Anakin Obi-Wan so much, that whole fight sequence, that my buddy and I, when the DVD came out, folks, we used to have portable DVD players that if you were in a car, you could plug it in and play it and all that stuff. Had a bunch of batteries and all that, made it work.
Mm.
We went into the driveway and with some Nerf bats went sequence by sequence and learned the entirety of that
Nice.
choreography. Now I couldn't do it now,
No.
but it was a fun afternoon learning the entirety of that choreography, and it just that meant a lot to me back then. This film still does, and that continues to
Clearly.
showcase how that was important here.
I love it.
Um,
I love it.
Now, in hindsight, no film is perfect. But is there anything that you would perhaps change, or that you wish would have been presented differently about this film now that 20 years have passed?
I miss some of the, I know Lucas had the 7 battles on 7 planets kind of
Mm-hmm.
thing in his wheelhouse, and I think, I will say at the time, especially after Attack of the Clones, you're like, great, now the Clone Wars are coming. Awesome.
Yeah.
I've been waiting for years for that.
They start and then they end.
And then they end. Yeah, I didn't understand it, and then the series comes along, and then we had, the Tartakovsky stuff was there. It was valuable at the time, and it doesn't hold up for me as much as maybe it does for others, but I do quite enjoy it, and you had some of the books and everything. You had the ideas going on, but that was still something. I understand it now. It's how you write a script. Enter late, leave early, like Lucas, much like he did with even A New Hope's existence. Like, maybe I cut off the trade dispute stuff and everything, and we go here. That a lot of people talk about Padme, and I really agree with it. Padme is one of my favorite characters. I understand and will say, even to the point of I agree with George saying, I need or want to refocus all of this to be about Anakin. This is his story. This is 6 chapters.
Too. Yeah.
It is. And you do lose a lot of Padme. As I said earlier, I do not believe Palpatine took her life energy and put it into, or Anakin's, or hers, and whatever. Put it into Anakin, I guess would be the way of it. I don't, it's fun, but I don't subscribe to it. Same with Darth Jar Jar. Don't subscribe to it. Fun stuff.
Only in the Lego.
Yeah, only in Lego, and it's a great place for it. It takes away the why. But first of all, as Joseph always says on ForceCenter, like, we are taking the word of a droid, a medical droid, who's like, oh, for reasons
100%.
we can't explain, she's dying. That's the, we don't quite know. And Death of a
Are we
Broken
even sure
Heart,
it's a medical droid too? I don't even know. Is this the first droid's first time looking at a body?
Yeah.
They didn't even know she was pregnant with twins until like a second before.
Yeah. And death by I want to be clear to him. Listen, I'm not out here to relitigate it or defend it or anything, but just like, we know death by broken heart is kind of a real thing.
Sure
Tragically,
sure
Debbie Reynolds died a day after Carrie Fisher passed. Like, this stuff happens, and things that we don't explain. But it's to me, I don't mind Padme dying, which is a weird thing to say out loud, and I think it worked for me in a lot of the story. But a little more tender care. And there's some things behind it, I'm sure, and behind the scenes stuff of part of the the change from off of Padme as a focus. But it was Anakin's story, so there's that. But I love in the sense of, I'm always open to hearing the Padme fans, including E.K. Johnston, who take issue correctly with her end. One of the most important characters in Star Wars just kind of pieces out in a way that might be unacceptable. So there's that. Other stuff, I will say, as much as I love and defend George of some of his dialogue choices being, as he's claimed later on, well, I'm writing it in a different style. It's a different
Hmm.
era. It is supposed to be a little stiff. It's a 1950s movie. You know, I still sometimes wish we had a little bit more freedom for the actors,
A little more oomph.
a little more oomph, and even some of the, you know, early stuff of when they're taking rescuing Palpatine. There's some great stuff in that, but
Yes.
you know, some of the witty banter is not
We're smarter
as
than this.
whips.
Apparently not.
Yeah, it's not as whip smart as I'd like it to be, but it's so small, so minuscule as a complaint versus what I love in the film.
Yeah, I mean, I'm 100% agreement on the. I wish there was more Padme. I wish that you know, if I could special edition these, I would probably include the deleted scenes of the rebellion stuff
Hmm.
in this in some way, shape, or form.
Oh, the
Now,
delegation of 2000. Yes, give me a special cut with it in.
yeah, no, I will say I don't. I I don't hold this much of a grudge against the film in regards to that because I feel like they could have done that in Clone Wars. Like they had the chance to do something like
Yeah,
that in whether season 6 or season 7.
yeah, yeah.
Like they could have added a bit more Padme into that too. Fully understand they were doing a specific story for that to close that out and then move
Hmm.
on to other stories too that springboarded from that. So,
Hmm.
you know, it's just a wish that I had. I still like in my head canon, Padme's kind of still doing those behind the scenes kind of stuff there, and that nothing
Yep,
detracts from that, in my opinion. So,
yep, yep.
you know, I've always been okay with the answer given for Padme's death too. It's never been a thing that I'm like, oh, that, you know, how is that possible? I'm like, oh no, a broken heart is possible. She was also
Hmm.
choked, basically, you know,
Hmm.
9 months pregnant with twins on a lava planet by her husband, who then, you know, she found
Hmm.
out killed kids moments before.
Hmm.
Very dark movie,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
it's very possible that droids, you know, I don't know if they understand how to understand, like, to read a throat, if it was
Yeah.
force choked and all that stuff. Like you're hearing it from a droid. It's an unreliable narrator here.
Yeah, or try having AI explain humor to you. You know, like
That's right. Oh my
we're
gosh,
not
that's
there
a
yet. You know, we're not
beautiful,
there yet.
beautiful
Yeah,
reason
and
for
hopefully we
yeah.
never get there. But yeah.
Uh, yeah,
Hmm.
that'll be the
Hmm.
day when
Hmm.
a AI gives me my medical advice. All of this. Oh,
I think we're there. Yeah,
whoa, too soon. Um,
yeah,
So I would be at fault if I didn't at least at some point bring up the maestro John Williams in this conversation. And I think that
yes,
arguably, at
yes,
least in my opinion, Revenge of the Sith is like a greatest hits and then some when it comes to the score for Star Wars.
yeah.
What is your favorite track and or musical beat within the film?
Padme's ruminations. I have written
Here,
about it
here. Yes.
in Why We Love Star Wars. I have talked about it before. This is my favorite John Williams score, hands down. I don't even hesitate to answer that.
Hmm.
Has he done great work in every other film? Yes, of course. It's John Williams. But in 2005, even when I was like, I don't know, it's stupid. It's stupid. Some of the stuff was Anakin fell to his knees. Come on, but
What
that
have I done?
music was cool. Yeah, that music was cool. From the opening strains, you know, and I did write about this in Why We Love Star Wars, but like the crawl, war, everything
Hmm.
into
Hmm.
the drums, the percussion, everything. It's a different sound. It's a great track. It's a great
Yeah.
way to open that movie. And Padme's Ruminations is something we had not really heard before in terms of a Star Wars score.
Nor has John
And
really done anything like that, to be honest, in his
yes, and
filmography to
it's
that point.
amazing. It is in a film series that, even as I have said, sometimes I think the dialogue and direction led to some stiff performances.
Hmm.
You know, Natalie Portman having to say, "Love," you know, why can't we go back to Naboo? That whole segment is my favorite
It's
written
because I love
scene.
you so much.
Love you so much. Yeah, I still don't even understand what they're both talking about in the scene. But all that aside, that scene, which has no dialogue, is a top 10 scene for me in Star Wars, I think, without a
Hmm.
doubt.
Hmm.
And it's the music and it's their performances, both of them, Hayden and Natalie, and the circumstances and everything about it, and decision being made. And it's a perfect, perfect piece of music for it.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, there's no dialogue in that scene whatsoever. The music does the speaking for it. And it's so like the low bass and that little
Hmm.
choir vocal that comes in there too, it's to some degree. And it's
Hmm.
just what, John Williams made this? This sounds like it should be like a Hans Zimmer score and something else years down the line. Like John was
Hmm.
so ahead of his time with this piece.
Hmm.
And I don't even know if I can articulate into words really how incredibly different and cool and awesome this track is at the end of all things, because it is the Anakin's choices right here.
Hmm.
Internally, Mace Windu is like, stay here, don't
Mm-hmm.
intervene here. You're too connected to this. If you stay here, you'll earn my trust and all that stuff. And then Anakin is like, oh, and with them looking at each other, cross distance, but there's like an ocean between them in a way at this point. Right? Anakin is already making his choice down this path, and Padme is left on an island over here
Mm-hmm.
as they get further and further apart from each other. That ultimately leads to the events on Mustafar, where she's like, "What are you doing?" And he's like,
Mm-hmm.
"I'm doing this for you."
Yeah.
It's like, I don't even know who you are anymore. And this
Mm-hmm.
all comes to a climax, I think, in that sequence there. So John Williams, man, you're knocking it out of the park here and doing, like you said, for a series that is often criticized for, especially in the prequels, for its wooden dialogue. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
this doesn't need dialogue. John is doing it right there for us, and you can feel the conflict and inner turmoil that's going on in Anakin. But ultimately, he's like, "I need to do this. This is the only way. This is the only path going forward. Here is
Mm-hmm.
by doing this. There is no other option." And this is already him doing the absolutes of, "I.
Mm-hmm.
This is it for me."
Mm-hmm.
So just really, really wonderfully done there on that front. Battle of the Heroes is another one that is
Yep.
really, really
Oh.
epic, I think,
Yep.
too, for the
Mm-hmm.
behind of the that plus the inner juxtaposition of Duel of the Fates in there too at various points, and Dave
Yeah.
Filoni's
Oh
gone
yeah.
at length talking about that important soundtrack beat
Mm-hmm.
there. I also love like the Grievous theme too. That's kind of
Yeah.
playful, which is great intermittently between the
Mm-hmm.
very deep and dark and secretive planning between Palpatine and Anakin throughout this.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, you've got
Great.
Obi-Wan going like, "Oh, so uncivilized," and joking
Yep.
around and having the "Hello there, General Kenobi," and having that great little banter
Mm-hmm.
between the
Mm-hmm.
two of
It
them
works.
to lighten this up a little bit here.
Yep.
But then, of course, Anakin's Betrayal is another great track in the soundtrack, which is the Order 66 of it all. It always
Mm-hmm.
brings a tear to my
Yep.
eye to see Kiadi Mundi turn around and just like recognize what's happening just as it's happening. Um,
Yes.
that's
Yes.
terrible. Anakin's Dark Deeds is another one that's always consistently in my top 5 on Spotify
Mm-hmm.
every year. And just that's for those at home, that's
Mm-hmm.
the sequence where he's on Mustafar and he's just like living through what he's done, and he has the tear going down his cheek as he's looking up into the cloudy sky. It's not a
Mm-hmm.
twin suns. It's not. It's just a dark, clouded sky. His future is clouded. It's dark. It's gloomy. It's the complete opposite of what like Owen and Beru have at the end of this movie, or Luke is looking at in the beginning of A New Hope. Like his journey is a
Mm-hmm.
dark one coming up ahead, and he's heading towards his second origin story here, which is his birth of the formal birth of Vader and the rise of Vader as we know him in this dark mechanical suit, this Frankenstein of a being that is forced to live in suffering for the rest of his existence.
Mm-hmm.
But in between there, you also get the greatest hits too of like the Force theme and Luke and Leia. We get Leia's theme there as well at various points, and the throne room sequence
Mm-hmm.
is in the
Yeah.
credits. So you get a little bit of everything. If, John Williams is
Yeah.
like, I'm not leaving it on the table here. This is the last
Yeah.
time I might be doing this.
I'll never do Star Wars again. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
folks, episode 7. What are you talking about? I'll be in my
Mm-hmm.
90s at that point. I'm not.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
not doing
I gotta
that.
do anything. Yeah. Exactly.
So Ken, we've done a wonderful job breaking down this film, but of
Mm-hmm.
course we've only, I feel like only scratched the surface for a lot of this, and I always like to give the last question here as a chance for the folks to like highlight some of their favorite moments that maybe we haven't chatted about in this film yet. So
Mm-hmm.
feel free to list as many as you want and can here. But what are some of your other favorite beats in this movie that maybe we haven't chatted about yet?
We should always talk about the opera scene and the Doth Plagueis the Wise scene. It is spectacular. It's loved
Yes.
universally almost, and there's so much stuff going on there. And I think we are talking with Scotty Jero in the Bombad cast recently about midichlorians. He come on
Mm-hmm.
ForceCenter and check out his panel in Star Wars Celebration Japan if you're out there.
Absolutely.
Talking about how Squid Lake is the visuals of it are sperm and egg, quite frankly, and it's the birth of life, and you got Palpatine talking about life and saving life and making life and everything. It's a wonderful scene, and it's Ian McDiarmid at his best. The mace fight, everything. Unlimited power back then was kind of like,
Mm-hmm.
well,
Mm-hmm.
that's a bit over the top, and it's like, oh yeah, no, that's the point.
Yep.
That's the point of
He's
it.
won. He
He's
knows
won,
it.
and even McDiarmid saying, I kept asking, and George said, go more, go bigger, and I did, and it works. It works.
Yeah.
All that. I do like the Grievous. Even the Grievous of it all. It's interesting to talk about. We had heard about him.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
didn't go poking around for scripts. We'd heard about him.
You didn't
And
see
then
him on his Tartakovsky's Clone Wars introduction?
no, well, I did, but even
Sure.
before then, we had kind of like heard
Okay.
about him and stuff like that, and um, he shows up and then he's hacking and he's coughing and he's running away, and I remember, and that was a big disappointment. But again, that is the point.
Mhm. Mhm.
And it's much has been made, and now I feel like 10 years ago when Force Center started, I felt we were one of the shows on an island discussing this stuff, and thankfully the island has gotten bigger and more shows and just pundits, including yourself, are on this island. But it's like Darth Maul and Dooku and Grievous are all parts of
Yes.
what
Yes.
Vader becomes, and there's lessons in there. And again, this Kalish warrior, I almost said Khaleesi, this Kalish warrior gives up his existence, gives up his organic existence essentially to become augmented and all powerful,
Mhm.
and 4 lightsabers, and and he's hacking and he's coughing and he runs away
Yep. He's a
until he's
coward.
killed. He's a coward. He's a coward. All the power in the world, and he cannot get what he wants. It's right there on the screen. So my view on that has changed. And plus, it's a great design, and I love that. So there's all that. Some great stuff with that we do get with Padme. I wish there was more. All the stuff there, man. It's good. And the opening sequence, the battle, of course,
Yeah. Yeah.
and the Jedi starfighters flying in, the music. It's a great sequence.
I love all of that, and I will say too, the 10-year-olds at the lunch table on that Monday,
Mhm.
we were big fans of the hacking Grievous. we're
Yeah,
like, we're like, this droid's
I love
coughing,
it.
man. He's just like us.
Yeah,
We're
just like
hacking the
us.
lungs too here. Yeah, this is
Yeah.
great. We
So
feel
that, yeah.
seen.
Don't they? Yeah, and in Order, like, I'm with you. Order 66 is sad. Even then, it was Kiadi Mundi, and now there's so many things about Kiadi Mundi that
Mhm,
we'd love to
mhm.
joke about and everything. But yeah, to have him be like, "I've made a huge mistake. Like I should have
Yeah,
listened to Padme. Like we all fell for it. It's an effective moment
we
for
all
me.
fell for the lie. Yeah.
We all fell for it. That, and then I'll say the Swordsman Dean moment, the Anakin killing the kids,
Mhm.
brutal choice, tough choice. And at the time, it was like, well, I wanted him slain Jedi because for years I'd heard he'd slain Jedi. Now he's going after these kids. I've always interpreted it now, after 2005,
Mhm.
as literally Anakin facing his past. Now, there's the story of the casting.
Yeah.
My buddy Jamie Stangram has interviewed the actor who played Source Bendim. He was kind of plucked out of the group of kids because he could say a line or two. So I'm not saying they were like,
Yeah.
let's grab a kid. Well, maybe they did, and the kid wasn't aware of it. But it was like he looks like Jake Lloyd in
I
Phantom
think
Menace.
that's a valid point too.
Yeah, Anakin's killing his past in this moment,
Mhm.
doing
He's
what Kylo Ren will try to do
Yep,
later
let the
on, which
past
is
die. Move on.
not the point of the Last Jedi. It's a bad lesson that the villain's trying to say is true, and for so it's more effective for me even now. I love the choice. I'm not saying I love the slaughter of these Jedi children, but
Mhm.
I love the choice of no, the strongest, most powerful Jedi in the galaxy is going to swipe the kids
Yes.
down because that is him reconciling or trying to reconcile his past. I actually really love that moment too.
That's exactly right, and that's him reconciling and moving on and saying, like, "I'm killing the Jedi
Mm-hmm.
within me here."
Mm-hmm.
Like, when he refers to the
Yep.
Jedi later on, right? This
Yep.
is what he's
The
referring to
Jedi.
is,
Yep.
"I am now Darth Vader. My new powers will save you, Padme."
Yeah.
And she's like, "I don't even know who you are anymore," because he's
Yeah.
technically, by at least by George's definition, no longer Anakin at this point. He's
Yep.
made his choice. He is Darth Vader. That is it.
Is it? Yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful. So many great moments in this movie, and again, there's so many more to beyond it too. Like I always, in this section, like to highlight the weird and wacky, the little bit of the humor bits, because it's such
Mm-hmm.
a dark film that has like our main character being,
Mm-hmm.
his arms and limbs chopped off, burnt alive in front of us, and then becomes forced to live in this mechanized state for the rest of his existence on this breathing apparatus of
Mm-hmm.
sorts.
Mm-hmm.
The Sith rule the galaxy at the end of all things. The Jedi are very much decimated to a small band that have to now live as rats in the cellar, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Afterwards, kids are killed. Our main, our main feminine protagonist is literally choked by her husband while being pregnant, 9 months
Yeah.
pregnant, just about ready to burst with twins
Mm-hmm.
on
Mm-hmm.
this lava planet.
Mm-hmm.
Dooku's head's cut off. Forgot about the whole Dooku of it all
Yeah.
in this movie, and there's a lot of dark here. So with
Yeah.
with that, there always has to be a little bit of humor to poke through. So I
Mhm.
love on Polis Massa when the twins are being born, the droids just randomly saying "ooh pa, ooh
Yeah.
pa." Like, why did that need to be there?
Oompa.
Who decided that?
Oompa. It's so
Uh,
wonderfully sci-fi. Yeah.
we've already said like the race shields thing, like race shields, we're smarter than this. Apparently not.
Yeah.
Or the
Yeah.
don't be, R2's trying. He's trying.
Yeah.
Don't be so,
Defend the
yeah.
droid. Yeah.
Let him be. He's doing his best.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't say
Yeah.
anything.
Mhm.
We're still flying half a ship.
Yep.
That whole
Yep.
sequence, and then Anakin being like, I think my ability to fly the ship is inconsequential right now. Uh,
Yeah.
all good stuff.
Yeah.
And then, frankly, after that, there's not a whole lot of humor
Yeah.
in this movie
Yeah.
afterwards. But
I
still some stuff with the droids and the Wookiees and all of that are
Yeah.
some good lighthearted stuff. And
Yeah.
but ultimately, until you get to Owen and Beru looking at the twin sons with Luke afterwards, not a whole lot to smile about in this movie up
Yeah.
until then. So got to celebrate the wins where we can.
Yeah, no, and I agree. On the banter of the brothers is on display, and it's
Yeah.
something that we had wanted to see. And again, Tartakovsky Clone Wars is out there and everything for those to enjoy. And one of the things I do love about Tartakovsky's Clone Wars is the Anakin and the trials, which we
Yes.
really
Yes.
not seen in canon, I believe. So
Yes. It's
in
not.
any
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
any way, shape, or form, it's not even been addressed really. So yeah, I agree with you up to a certain point. Then the movie's like, cool, yoink, enough of that. It's gonna get dark.
The one unintentionally funny thing that I always throw here is like, just because Obi-Wan has to have the lightsaber to give to Luke, he just picks it up after Anakin
Yes,
is just
yes.
down there burning
Hmm,
alive and
hmm,
groaning and
hmm.
moaning and yelling he hates him and all that stuff.
Yep,
It's just like, oh, I'll pick this up
yep.
because plot point, need to address
Yeah,
this
yeah.
later.
Like,
But yeah,
someone
like
remind Ewan to pick it up. Remind Ewan to pick it up.
yeah, we need to do a pickup shot where he goes back and picks it up because
Yeah,
we
yeah.
forgot about that,
I
guys.
forgot about it. Yeah.
And to ultimately get to the point of all this again, where you were like, yeah, the brother banter between the two of
Mhm.
them, and I'm like, that's it right there. You Obi-Wan should have been the father the entire time that
Yeah,
this
yeah.
kid desperately needed, and this reluctant
Mhm.
master, because he's Qui-Gon's in his dying arms, been like, train the boy. He's like, okay, I guess I will. I don't really want to. I just became a Jedi Knight, or I'm about to become a Jedi Knight here.
Mhm.
I have my future ahead of me. It's not about training this kid here. And then going through that whole ordeal. And then when Obi-Wan
Mhm.
at the end is like, you were my brother, Anakin. And I'm like, that's the problem there. You were my son. You were like, that
Yeah.
would have hit harder. You always looked at him as a brother, rather than being the dad that he needed, and then found that dad in the wrong
Mhm.
person that now overthrew the galaxy, or didn't overthrow the galaxy, but used his power to keep it gathering
Mhm.
more power, to then leading to liberty and democracy dying, and all the events that we see of the empire furthering its grasp on everybody throughout the dark time, starting in Bad Batch and then concluding with the events of Rogue One. Not concluding per se, but they really are tightening that grip even further with that Death Star,
Yeah.
and literally blowing up planets. So it's that through line there. It's again the failures of everybody. It's sad to see the
Yeah.
failures all the way up to
All the way.
where we leave off here. But
Mhm.
Revenge of the Sith,
Mhm.
it's a dark tale.
Yeah.
It's a fantastic tale that it leads to many warnings for us as if we take them and extrapolate for the future and try to
Yeah.
be better people in our daily lives. But there's a lot to pick from, folks.
There is. No, it is. And I'm really happy we got a chance to discuss it here because yeah, I think in focusing a lot on the Force Awakens 10th anniversary and just
Yes.
a lot of things going on in the Star Wars world, getting ready for Andor, we at Force Center have yet to really take our time to discuss this
Hmm.
film. We still got time, maybe get to May, but
Yeah.
it's been fun. You can tell you started me going there, and just it pours out. I love this movie.
I love it. This was a fantastic conversation, Ken. And where can the folks find you? Force Center, Napzok Files, The Blathering. Where can they find all the cool stuff that you're doing online these days? Plug
Yeah.
anything that you want.
Yeah, back in the early 2000s, we started all getting these things called personal websites, and then social media kind of replaced that, and websites died, and with link trees and everything. I'm
Hmm.
back to really just go to cadnapsock.com. Links to everything I do there. I do have a lot of shows. Do please, if you haven't already, check out Force Center with Joseph Scrumshaw, Jennifer Land, and myself. If you really, even on a 2% level, enjoy anything I've said today, we dive in deep, we have fun, but also play in the realm of the poignant when talking about Star Wars.
Wonderful, folks. Yes, go check out Force Center. Go check out and support all the things that Ken does. He's awesome and a great member of this community, and it's been a pleasure to have him on the show here. And for the folks listening at home, thank you for participating in this episode here and for listening along and for all the good stuff that you do as being a good members of the Star Wars community yourselves too. And we'll be
Mm.
back next week with a brand new episode about something in the Star Wars and Lucasfilm adjacent galaxy. But until then, may the Force be with you. Take care.